I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
In those times when we have that deeper connection with each other and with God, and we're communicating everything that is on our hearts and minds, I feel God pulling us closer together.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is about the idea of God being at the center of a marriage. This is an idea that I've wanted to explore for quite some time, and we've touched on it in previous episodes, but this is the most in-depth conversation on the topic that I've had with a Christian couple. And what I love about this conversation is that David and Heather are not academics or preachers. So this is an idea that's very much at the center of their lives, but that they don't spend a lot of time articulating in their day-to-day. So the conversation very much comes from their heart, and I think that makes it feel more genuine. We also get to touch on the topic of sex after childbirth, which is always a fascinating issue and one that I think doesn't get enough airtime these days. Now, this is one of my very rare remote interviews, so you'll probably hear a few audio hiccups as a result, and I apologize for that in advance, but they're not too bad. So with that, let's go to our interview with David and Heather Mariano.
Our belief is that God is the Father, God's the head of our household. He sent Jesus to help us. We're not perfect. We make mistakes all the time, and he bridges that gap between us and God because we make those mistakes. And we're not perfect, so Jesus allows us to get closer to God. And so that's the basis of our belief from, I guess you can call it a religious standpoint or spiritual. And so to place God in the center of our relationship, it is something that unifies Dave and I, and it's something that we can always come back to when we're struggling individually or together. And we have seen in our relationship when we feel like we're being challenged by things that God's showing us in our life, whether it's through relationships, through what either of us should be doing in our relationship or professionally. He just is a way for us to like recenter and come back to what we should be doing to live into like the truest form of ourselves and to live into the talents that we feel that he has given us and instilled in our own personal character. So it's something that we're always kind of coming back to as a couple.
What does it feel like versus, so that description makes sense, but I'm wondering, how does it actually operate? Like if you're having a challenge, for instance, and just give me an example. What would be an example of a recent challenge where this was implicated?
Gosh, we don't have many challenges, really. Maybe Heather can think of something better, but
I would say we work very hard at being very good at communicating with each other. I would say the challenges in our marriage come from us individually having challenges and then that weighing us down as a couple. Mm-hmm. Not so much that that we're just, yelling at each other all the time. That's not the makeup of our marriage at this point in time. But I can think of times for both of us personally where we're feeling kind of lost in what we're doing. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I'm not 100% satisfied in that role. And so I've always had a side photography business, and now I'm an entrepreneur trying to open up a family cafe here in our neighborhood. And so I've struggled with contentment as being a stay-at-home mom. And there have been times where Dave has struggled professionally with contentment about what he's doing. And so in those times when we have that deeper connection with each other and with God, and we're communicating everything that is on our hearts and minds, I feel God pulling us closer together and leading us and using the words that I'm saying to Dave and Dave saying to me to help us see the best version of ourselves.
I would add too, it goes back to, for me, the commitment that was made when we decided to get married, because I think before, now Heather's been in the church much longer than I have. I literally I was raised Catholic, but I didn't really feel it. And then when I went back to this church where we met, that's when I was baptized, and I kind of took a hold of this stuff as a Christian who tries to actually live out that stuff now. And so it was the first time that I really understood, or it was articulated in a way that I understood, that marriage is a commitment. It's not society aside, what a lot of people do today, because of our belief in God, that commitment is permanent. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would hate to think of the circumstances that would break that commitment for mm-hmm. us. And so to me, that the initial promise is what I keep looking back to. And it also is in the little moments throughout the week, the days, I also feel like it is the parental, the father kind of watching what we do in the same way. So how I speak to Heather, how I communicate, I don't want to be harsh because I know someone's watching me the whole time. And I don't always feel that, but that's definitely when I say something stupid, I look back and say, I know that's not how I'm supposed to communicate or how I'm supposed to treat her.
But I mean, is that to say that you would treat her a different way if somebody wasn't watching?
No, that's no, but it's just that I think that's what God at the center means. I think you have that. It's just a constant state of accountability and expectation of how to actually love someone. That, as the pastor who married us, it will never leave my mind, is that love is lifelong pursuit. Mm-hmm. That really, when I heard him say that at someone else's wedding first, honestly, that changed what I saw marriage to be.
It's not a challenge to fall in love. It's a challenge to stay in love.
Right. That's so true, right? Any dummy can fall in love.
Yeah.
Lifelong pursuit. Yeah. Yeah. And that you said that in another way a moment ago, which was that because you believe in God the way that you believe in God, marriage is a lifelong commitment. Right? Or did you say maybe more than life? Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's a long-term commitment. But why does God make the commitment lifelong commitment? That's the part I didn't understand of that statement.
That's based on the Bible. For us, that's the commandment that we've been given in the Bible, and that's what is part of the foundation of our beliefs. So, to us, they're based on what the Bible says, and there's no way out besides death.
Wow. So, and well, it makes me want to ask about exceptions, but that's sort of like a sideshow to the real question, which is about the notion of a lifelong commitment through this lens of spirituality. I'm just really curious how God informs that, aside from the Bible where it's written. Like, how does the Spirit of God make it clear to you? Maybe
something
Spirit of God is redundant.
Both experience. No, that's so true. Something that we both have experienced is, and this is countercultural against what society says is okay, but if Dave or I spend time checking someone out, we have talked about this, and kind of taken it as a way to confess to each other. And we take the vantage point of that's not okay. Even just looking with a certain intention is not something that we want to bring into our marriage, because we see that as a stepping stone towards infidelity.
Well,
Right.
I totally
human.
get that.
It's very
yeah.
human, right?
It is. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe that's the distinction, because I get that too. And that's a rule that I don't have that same rule. I have a different approach to that issue, but I can totally understand why you would have that rule. But I don't understand
And
why.
I wouldn't say it's a rule that like Dave's not allowed to look at other women, because like he said, it's human.
Yeah.
But it's just something that we have talked about when it's been more of like a consistent issue with us.
But I
And
don't understand
I've told
why.
him that
I guess the question I have, because I get that you talk about that, which is just the best possible thing for you to do, but I don't understand why God is implicated in that conversation.
because I feel that when I have been the one to do that, I can sense God saying like, that's not okay. It's not just me making that decision, because this has been, I guess, a newer experience in my life. I spent, my early 20s. I went to Ohio State. There were tons of cute guys. I spent all my single years checking out a lot of guys because I thought that was okay, and I thought that's what I should do. And then fast forward to being in a relationship with Dave and falling in love with him and being engaged and marrying him and realizing this is not okay. I shouldn't be checking out these other guys. I'm with the man that I love and want to spend my life with. So it was definitely God leading me in that direction.
Oh,
Because I had created a pattern in my life, and he was showing me a new pattern, a new habit to actually something that it's like a mind trick I do is when I find myself looking at a guy in that way, say a guy running without a shirt on or something, I think, what does Dave look like? And I'm like, oh, he's very cute. And so it's just this thing I do. And I feel like that was something that God showed me as sort of a solution, or whatever you want to call it.
okay. So that's great. It's a nice solution. And I can imagine somebody listening to this going, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's God who's talking to you. And I can imagine somebody else listening going, isn't that just our conscience?
Sure.
Is there a difference?
I mean, I think that, and this is a hard thing to, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think we both have doubts, and there's a whole separate conversation about what God is and how he speaks to us or not. But I think the conscience, I think that's where it comes from. I think God put it in us as human beings. So I think it's the root of everything. I think that the feelings we have, that to confess, to want to make things right, if we know that, so we have this agreement in a way, like marriage is an agreement at some level, where one of us knows that, I think I should tell Heather about this. Number one, because I think it's the right thing to do, that she would want to know, even though it might be hard to hear, but it also, when you do that, it just kind of frees you from it. And again, that's a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible about living in community with people. And when it lays it out right there, that says when you talk about things out loud, it kind of frees you from it. And it kind of proves out, when you try it, it proves itself out.
Yeah, I would say I definitely agree with what Dave's saying as far as where your consciousness is coming from. I think that is God-given. Talking about my story specifically, because I had come from the pattern of thinking like, oh, it's fine to check out boys or whatever, it doesn't matter. And then having it such a specific change for me, I felt like that specific part was God speaking to me. You need to make it a change. You need to change your habit and correct that for the sake of your marriage. And not that I heard him audibly in this way, but it was just like leading me in a better direction.
Right. You said something earlier, which was that you could tell when God was saying something and when he wasn't. I think I'm putting words in your mouth, but it was something like that. Like you could tell when something was coming from God versus just coming from yourself. And is that what you're talking about? That it comes from, does it feel different?
Yeah, because I would say in that specific instance, me by myself, I wouldn't have said, I need to stop looking at other guys, because I wouldn't have thought it was a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because unless somebody told me specifically to stop doing that because it could, in 20 years ruin your marriage because it's just step one, I wouldn't know that on my own, I guess is my thought. I wouldn't say that it's always all that clear either when you're talking about like what you feel like God is showing you or telling you, or sometimes it is just my head. And so I usually preface when I'm saying stuff like that by saying, I think God's showing me that I should do X, Y, and Z, because I don't know if I'm always right.
Well, now I want to know if there's anything, if you've ever come across something where you wanted to take a particular action in order to deepen your relationship, but then had a voice say that it was a bad idea. And then wonder, if it was God's voice or some other voice. Because I can imagine it could get pretty tricky, right? Because your ego could get in the way and start pretending like it's your conscience. And then you're kind of lost, right? Or is that just a problem that I'm making up?
No, I think it's real. I just can't think of anything in our relationship. I mean, I think that happens all the time in life. I mean, even as some of the conversations we had about my little side project that I have going on, like that's something for me. I struggle with, is it my ego? Is it what I want? Or is it what God would want me to do? Mm-hmm. Is it right for our family? I struggle with that big time. But in our relationship, I can't think of any examples.
What's your side project?
So I host a podcast and a educational platform for finance professionals.
Oh, great.
It's called Finance Career Launch.
.com?
Yes, financecareerlaunch.com.
Awesome. And there's a podcast with it, right? Okay.
There is.
Well, I'm sorry to say I haven't listened to it yet.
That's okay.
I do my homework after the show so that I can plug it in the intro.
I tried to listen to it and my kids were confused as to why Daddy was talking in the car and he wasn't there, so I haven't listened to it again.
Really? That's so cute. How old are they?
Leo's 3.5 and Fiona's 1.5.
I can totally see why. Where's Daddy? That's the most adorable thing ever.
Very upset.
Okay. So you do wonder with that question, sort of sorting out the internal voices.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And do you have have you come to a insight on which is which?
No, I mean, I don't know if Heather has any commentary on this, but I think sometimes that you have to take a step forward in a direction to get further direction. Just like a lot of things in life, I think you can sit there and you can pray, you can journal, I should say I can pray, I can journal, I can think a lot. And this is me. I tend to be an analytical person, so that's probably one of the areas in life, spiritual, all sorts of realms that I struggle with in general. So I think, that God sometimes allows me to make choices and learn from those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Where we have free will.
Yeah. So. Like other areas, when it came time to decide whether or not I wanted Heather to be my wife, that was one of the most clear things that happened ever. I'd been in several long-term relationships, multiple years, and I didn't want to get divorced. My parents are still married after 40 years now, I think. 40 plus? No, 35? 41 years, yeah. And I just didn't want to be divorced. So I thought I was being very careful and being patient with these other relationships. In reality, now in hindsight, it's just they weren't right for me. But I thought I was being patient. I thought I was giving it time. But then when I met Heather, I mean, we went on our first date in June and we were engaged in November.
Wow.
Never in a million years would I have guessed that I would have done that. And I prayed about it. I felt, wow, this is real. I can see this. This makes sense to me. And I did feel in that moment that it was blessed, that it was arranged by God. I mean, I did feel that way. Other things are never that clear, but that was one time when I did feel very clear about something.
Wow.
When Dave said that, it just reconnected what you were asking about chemicals, going back to our first date and coming from being friends already, is that we fell hard and fast because we had that sort of platform already there. So yeah, things went quickly. And
it's such a good foundation, isn't it? I mean, friendship is such because you've already got trust in place. You don't have to worry about people's intentions. You know something about them and who they are. It's such a great way to start. Well, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Together, the podcast about relationships. And I acknowledge it'd be weird for you to be joining us now because it's a podcast, but who knows? We'll be back in just a moment with more questions.
What are the odds that you'll get a date by this weekend? Well, if you're on Match, they're pretty good. 1 in 3 relationships start online and more start on Match than any other dating site. So if you're single and looking to meet people, you've got to get on Match. We already know that online dating works, and Match is the way to go. They're not only number 1 in first dates, but in second dates too. Match makes it easy to find that great connection. You can also download the Match app to have matches sent directly to your phone. Meeting your match has never been easier. Just go to match.com/together, and for a limited time, you can try Match for 7 days free. That's 7 days completely free to search and connect with thousands on Match. So go ahead, create your account now at match.com/together. That's match.com/together.
Welcome back. You're listening to Together, the podcast about relationships, and we're talking to David and Heather Mariano. And you guys, I wanted to turn to a question that we've been, that listeners have been asking us to pursue a little bit more, which is sex in general, but specifically sex after baby, or babies in your case, right? You have 2 kids? Mm-hmm. So yes. It can be a challenge right afterwards to keep that intimacy that is your right in a marital relationship. And well, maybe right's the wrong word. Boy, I kind of wish I hadn't said that actually. I don't know that it's a right. But anyway, it can be hard to keep sexual intimacy alive after you've had a kid. So how did that work out for you guys? What happened?
Baby number 1. Yeah, I mean, coming from the female perspective, you need some time to heal. But after that, I don't know. I think for me personally, and this varies for all people and all women, I craved that kind of intimacy, that connection, because it had been a while. I mean, you can't do it for at least 6 weeks after you have a baby.
Just you mean physiologically?
And so, right. Yeah, you're not, it's not recommended by doctors. And so, in that time of life, your life is turned upside down. You go from a couple to a threesome, and you have this newborn who cries and needs to eat and may or may not sleep ever. Depends on the kid. Ours was pretty good. So just I just craved that deeper level of connection with Dave after our son Leah was born. And so it was something that I wanted. But it's a new territory. You have to kind of navigate around somebody else again and make time, make it a priority. And then having a second baby is a whole nother thing because you're both sort of, well, for us with 2 parents, 2 kids, you're dividing and conquering so much that you aren't necessarily like seeing each other. Right. You're just kind of doing things next to each other. And so then you just crave that intimacy even more, at least for me. But then it can be even harder to make that a priority. And so one thing we've done is like, well, the kids are in bed. Don't go downstairs and start watching TV because then somebody's going to fall asleep. And the whole thing's over.
Right.
So Dave came up with the idea of, okay, no, we don't go downstairs. We go to our bedroom after
if
they
you've
go to
got
theirs.
the kids in bed,
And
take advantage of it.
done. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they can't get out.
For now.
Well, one of them anyway.
That's, go ahead.
We've also, also in the same vein, I'd say Sunday afternoons have been, we try to make, I don't know if this is too
No, it's
specific,
great.
but
I think actually, to be honest, it's the
we do-
specific details that people are lacking.
Yeah.
and the way we're able to do is we do, again, back to the whole spiritual thing, we try to take a Sabbath and we tend to make that Sunday. And where I don't work, Heather doesn't work, we try to do as little work-ish activities as possible. We go to church, we hang out with the family, hang out with friends or neighbors, watch football, watch baseball, whatever, just to relax. And so because there's the space that day, I think it makes it much easier to just, hey, whenever the kids are down, whether that's afternoon, night, whatever, it's kind of easy to make it happen.
Yeah. Just relaxed.
Still,
and-
Do you think anybody has concern about sex on the Sabbath?
No.
Oh,
Or there's
it's
something
work?
wrong. I mean, there's I mean, I have heard from some Christian couples that they just have a lot of guilt around sex in general.
Oh.
Which
No.
is a thing
No.
that, I mean, I think the whole point of the Bible is that once you're married, it's okay, right? In fact, it's encouraged.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So, but yet some guilt seems to persist.
I have read about that as well.
I was
Yeah.
going to ask you where it comes from, but if you don't experience it,
funny.
I guess you probably don't know.
No, but funny story about my grandfather. He, whatever filter he ever had was completely gone by the time Dave met him in his 80s. And when we were with him and my grandmother a month before we got married at Easter, and he said, now I know it hasn't been okay to have sex leading up to this, but now it's okay. So, go for it.
That seems pretty tame. That seems like a pretty
Like,
PG
thank you,
statement,
Greg.
Heather. I thought you were going to come out with something crazy from Grandpa.
Oh, there's more. He basically told us to go skinny dipping in the pool the first time Dave ever came out there. So, we had to honor his request and did it the following year once we were married.
You got to do what Grandpa says to do.
Grandpa says go skinny dipping in his
just
pool.
gotta
You
do
just got to do it. It's like a family tradition.
And yeah, that's awesome. I love that you took his advice. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, I mean, 6 kids, 8 years, 62 plus years of marriage. Man
6
knows some
kids.
things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Do you have any insights for couples around, making sex and sexual intimacy work after childbirth?
I think a huge thing that we haven't talked about yet is prioritizing date night. And I know, some people like to make fun of that term, whatever, but it is so necessary. I don't care what you call it. Make time for each other. We are very lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it, to have my parents 15 minutes away, and they babysit at least twice a month. They're amazing. They basically never say no to us. And so I get that we have a strong advantage for us, being that it's family, so you trust them, and it's free. So that's huge. But even if we didn't, I know that I would be searching high and low for the best possible babysitter. We would put that money aside, take it out of whatever other, sort of luxury thing we have, cut back, because when we connect, when we're out to dinner, not feeding anyone else, focused, actually looking at each other in the eye and having a serious conversation and not just trying to keep the kids kind of in line, that for me kind of like warms me up to the deeper intimacy we can have when we get back home.
Right.
If that doesn't happen, then you're not connecting through communication and through like emotionally. So how are you supposed to just then jump in bed?
Because
sometimes that's maybe more of a female issue. But
let me just speak for the male perspective. The longer I'm in a relationship, the more emotional intimacy I need to be turned on. And I like saying that out loud because I don't think it's accepted as standard male behavior or masculine behavior in our culture, but I just think it's true. I mean, like we were saying at the beginning, any dummy can fall in love, and any dummy can get turned on in the first month of a relationship. But once you've been in it for a while, it's you need something else. You need something deeper in order to feel that connection.
Yeah, and I would also add that as you get older, I mean, we're not old by any means, but I just turned 37, and there's work, there's kids, there's all sorts of other stuff that easily gets in the way of that. And so even as the guy, like, you can get stressed out, you can get, your mind is somewhere else often, and it's so you need something to pull you back in. And the only other thing I'd add that is slightly different and also probably weird coming from the guy perspective, but after we had our first, I kind of went into this weird depression thing. I just wanted to be home with him and Heather. And I remember at that time, I had a hard time just initiating sex at all. And Heather definitely, as she already mentioned, was kind of craving that intimacy. And so there was this weird like flip mismatch of typical
gender roles.
And something someone said to me that definitely helped and sounded weird, but it was a guy friend who said, hey, sometimes you just need to like view it as a service to your wife. And I mean, as a guy, thankfully you get turned on pretty quickly once you start down that path at all. So I did. I mean, I had to do that a few times, and she knows it. And it's just, I think not everyone has that agreement, but I think that's another foundation of it for us, is that is a part of being married. And I know you joked about saying a right or obligation, but I mean, I kind of do see it that way. That is part of intimacy. It's important to Heather. It's important to me. And sometimes you may not be totally there, but it's almost like a gift that I can give to just go through with it. And then you get there. I mean, you get there once you're in the moment, right? I mean, it's pretty, it happens pretty quickly.
That is the thing.
Yeah. And I would say that from my perspective too, like, just say yes. It's never going to be a mistake. It's always good, And sometimes it's just like getting out of your head. It's like, okay, so maybe I'm not like dying for it in this moment, but it doesn't matter, because once we're connecting in that way, it's great. It's always great.
Yeah, I really do hear that from both genders over and over. Sometimes you don't want it, but if you start down that path, it always ends up being a good idea. And the other thing the other thing about it, tell me if you think this is true, is there's another masculine myth that if you don't have an orgasm, it wasn't good sex. And I just want to debunk that one too. I mean, I think you can have I think you can have great sex, and I think you can have great sexual intimacy, and it doesn't have to result in an orgasm for either party, really, but specifically for the male.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny. We're going there. I mean, it hasn't happened that much, but I mean, yeah, I would agree with that though. I mean, you definitely take pleasure in the other person's enjoyment of it. Absolutely. I mean, as a person that likes to be liked and loved, and I mean, that's all part of it, right? It's like she liked that.
Yeah.
Check. pat myself on the back for that.
Or let her do it, but yep.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything I should be asking about intimacy and that kind of deep connection that we haven't talked about yet?
I can't think of anything.
I do want to know, where does God fit into that conversation?
I mean, I think a lot of what we've already said, that it's at least what I just said about the commitment and kind of my job. Part of my job is to serve my wife, and sometimes it's in that way. And it hasn't been this case lately, but back, a couple of years ago when I wasn't feeling it more often than I normally do, I viewed it as a way to do that. And I also view it as and I have no idea if this is accurate, but I've heard people say this, that there are certain things in life that are just magical that some people believe are little slices of heaven, right? Like certain types of music, just they can take you to this place that just seem out of this world. And I think sex is one of those things that it's so magical in a way that how is that not from something way bigger than ourselves?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think because of the level of like intimacy that it adds to a relationship, and when done in the way that God ordains and told us to do, I think it actually honors God, and we're just saying, yes, that's, you said be married, do this, and you gave us this gift. And yeah, it does seem like, oh, this is what heaven's gonna be like. That'd be pretty great. I feel like this more. It just seems so right.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Well, okay, so I'd like to just turn to last general topic, which is to ask you if there's anything that I should have asked you that I didn't.
We touched on the communication thing and how I think that's helped us both so much. Mm-hmm. And just, I mean, viewing, for me as a guy, this is probably more of a male thing, feeling with Heather being at home and having the work, the providing of certain financial resources, and you have this weight of that, and it's easy to view it as separate, and I often do, but I know that when I can bring Heather into certain decisions or certain parts of my work life, it's better. Mm-hmm. So viewing her as a partner in life, not just our private life, as something that I continue to, I think, try to do better, and it's made things richer.
Viewing her as a partner in all of your life?
Yeah, that it's...
Even the parts where I'm not present.
Right.
Has made life richer.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like I feel more confident. I feel more complete. I feel like I can make better decisions with her, whether she's there or not, because I can still consult with her. Right.
It's a nice way to have a relationship too, partnership. It's not the only way, but I have to say it's the way that works for me. Well, what about challenges? What's the biggest challenge you two have faced?
I can think that it goes back to how we learned how to communicate with each other. For me, entering into our marriage, everybody has baggage. It looks different for everybody. I had a hard time when we would fight or when I'd be upset. I just shut down, and I couldn't even articulate what I was feeling, what I needed to say to Dave. I didn't want to say the wrong things. I didn't want to say nasty things. So I just didn't say anything at all, and it didn't get us anywhere. It just made Dave want to walk away because I wasn't talking to him. I literally said nothing. I guess, the silent treatment, that's normal, but I wasn't even doing it on purpose. I didn't know how to fight with him in a way, and not fighting in the sense of screaming, yelling at him, but just saying, I couldn't even say the words, "I'm mad at you," because he'd asked me, "Are you mad at me?" No, but that wasn't true. I was mad at him, and I just couldn't say why, and I didn't know how to say it in a healthy way. And that took several years for me to figure out how to talk to him when I was mad or when I was upset or when he had hurt me. And so those were the hardest things of the early part of our marriage. And
Well, how did you finally learn it?
getting so frustrated with myself by there were so many thoughts in my head of what I wanted to say. And Dave worked at it too. I think when we were outside of those bad moments, I could then articulate to him, like, I need you to ask me more questions to help me with this. And so he did that rather than just waiting for me to talk when I wasn't going to talk. And just knowing that he cared to hear what I had to say. And I would always pray in those times too. Pray specifically that God would help me discern the right words from the wrong words, or the things that would build us up, not tear us down. So I didn't want to say those ugly things
Right.
that then you regret. I wanted to say things that maybe weren't compliments to Dave, because you are fighting or you're trying to figure out a conflict, but something that would be,
Right.
that would move us forward.
Which is such a hard balance to find.
Yeah.
So that was your guiding principle, was to be able to do that. But I know how it gets when you get into the withdrawal thing. Like, I'm a withdrawer also. And for me, it's just as you've said, I never want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
I don't want to make it worse. In some sense, I'm a little bit scared of where I might go if I completely let loose,
Right.
And so I withdraw, and then with my partner, it makes her feel abandoned. Like I'm not connecting in the relationship. And so we've worked out a method where I'll ask for a certain amount of time to go and collect my thoughts and then come back. Or else I'll just take in everything she's saying if she's upset, and not respond, but listen and still be there while she's saying what she has to say. So at least I'm not leaving. But if I don't know what I want to say yet, I can still remain silent until I've collected my thoughts. And that seems to work pretty well. But it took a lot to figure out that was what we needed to do. Or that I needed to do, It didn't just appear out of nowhere.
Right. Nobody teaches you how to do these things.
What's that?
Nobody teaches you how to do these things, or
Right.
how to fight or communicate well with a spouse.
Well, for you're saying it kind of came through prayer.
Yes. I would say through prayer, as far as what things I should say and not say. As far as like how to communicate, I feel like it was actual communication outside of those bad moments with Dave that really helped to explain to him, like, this is what happens to me. Can you help?
And Dave, do you remember this period of time too?
Yeah, it is cloudy, to be honest. I kind of forgot about that, and I was sitting here thinking, we just get to things quicker now, I guess. Things are said quicker. But I definitely remember being frustrated and just not wanting to. I think I was afraid of just, are we brushing this under the rug, or is she going to stay mad at me? I wasn't sure what the outcome would be, so I just want to talk about it, I guess. And I remember being frustrated by it, that's for sure. And then just, I guess, I didn't know what else to do. Do I just sit there in silence too, or do I just go do something else? But yeah, it's different now.
Or fall asleep.
I fall asleep fast.
I don't. I stew.
Right. You just lay there for hours.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. Yeah, it's amazing though, isn't it? The feeling like looking back and just remembering, wow, we really came a long way, figured
Yeah.
out some skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're both able to be more honest too. I wouldn't say that I was able to be really honest either. I don't think I could say those things either. I could just, I think I wanted to hear, not that it was easy to hear tough things either, but I think we're both able to say, I'm angry. We're both able to admit when we're hurt better, and we're nowhere near where we want to be, I think. But I think we've both made changes in that area, and we just get there faster.
Yep.
It's a kind of trust, isn't it? To be able to say the thing that, to be able to say the dark or unpleasant statements that you need to say.
Yeah,
There's a certain
showing
trust
that
to,
anger.
right, to show the anger. I mean, you have to know that your partner is still going to love you, that they're not going to shun you for saying it.
Yeah, I think more recently, as far as like getting there faster, like Dave said, is I remember a more recent occasion where we were frustrated with each other, and I remember actually more yelling, just sort of getting it out faster rather than just stewing. And it was productive. It wasn't like a baddie. It was just like, okay, let's talk. You know, that kind of yelling.
Yeah, totally.
Don't walk away from me. So it wasn't like, any sort of, slinging insults kind of yelling, but just making progress, I think.
Do you shy away from having those experiences in front of your kids?
It's funny you asked. I was just sitting here thinking about that. I wasn't sure if you wanted to go forward, but I don't know that we have had that happen quite yet.
We tend to be nighttime fighters.
Yeah.
just by default, that's what by luck happens to happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen that often either, but or when they were napping on the weekend or something, but I don't know. I mean,
or you're just so focused on them because they're so little that we just sort of like have to get through taking care of them and like, okay, get them napping or get them to bed, and then okay, we can actually deal with what's happening right now.
Yeah, when they're older, I think it might be different, and we'll see what we do with that. I mean, part of me, if you want to know, I mean, part of me wants to see that. I don't know that I'd love to, if we ever get in a big fight yelling at each other, I would rather them, I guess, not see that, but maybe they should. But I do want them to know that you need to talk to work through things. That's something that somehow I want them to observe it in some way. I don't know how that works really yet because we haven't been there yet. But
yeah, I mean, I think inevitably they will see conflict, and they need to know what it takes to have a healthy relationship. Because if they never see that we struggle, then they won't see what the reality of marriage is, and they won't ever be successful with it themselves.
Yeah, well said. That strikes me as the way to go with it too. They've got to see conflict, and they've got to see you resolve conflict in a healthy way.
Yes.
So they can model it.
Yeah, and it's something we even talk about with our son is forgiveness, because he's learning that you can see the guilt in him when he makes mistakes. And so we talk about, it's okay, I forgive you because you apologized, and you're going to try harder to not make that same choice in the future. And so I know that's something that we would pull into it as well. As like, I was mad at Daddy, but I forgive him.
Right. Little guy, he's got to go through all that.
No,
I know.
It's hard.
It's a happy, sad thing,
Yeah.
Well, you guys seem like great parents. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat today about all this stuff and getting honest about it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun.
Well, that's it for our interview with David and Heather, folks. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about David, well, he's a podcaster himself, and you can find his podcasts at davidpmariano.com. That's David, as you would expect to spell it, P like Peter, Mariano, MARIANO.com. And I'll link that in our show notes. Thanks to our sponsors for today, Match.com. If you'd like to take advantage of their offer of 7 days free, just go to match.com/together and register your account there, and you'll get a week free on their site. If you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a huge difference to our ratings when you subscribe, so we really appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out to us via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both @together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Well, that's all for today, folks. See you next time.